We are here with Scout's mom, Jen Gillen. Everybody knows Scout at this point. He's a very noticeable dog on social media, Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter. He is living under BSL right now and has been his entire life.
He's pretty much gone his whole life with a muzzle. The guy who put it into place here isn't really a fan favorite. He's done some awful things in the past couple years, so that's a whole other...
What is that guy's name?
Michael Bryant.
Okay, yeah. He's the Attorney General of the province, or used to be, I guess.
Yeah. He's notorious for not only this, but also there was an incident a couple years ago with a courier that was kind of bad that he was involved in. So yeah, not really a fan favorite here in Ontario. And we've spent almost 10 years now trying to undo what he's done.
There's a really good piece by Malcolm Gladwell. He's a pretty well-known author, and he did a piece on...
Right, The Tipping Point?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I read that book.
He did a piece on pit bulls, and one of the main portions of his writings was based around Ontario and their breed ban. So he goes into detail what actually caused it, what started it, the incident that happened. Like it was literally one incident where a kid was attacked by one dog and then two others, and 5 days later they had a breed ban.
The progress on trying to lift the ban is so insanely slow. Like there's a couple readings, and then every time there's any sort of progress, new members are in. So like it needs to start all the way from the bottom, like every time that there's new people voted in and whatnot.
When you take any rights away from people, it's really hard to get them back. I mean, once you lose them, it's like 100 times harder to get them back. So the fact that anybody's voting in a ban, or I guess the community probably didn't even have a say in that ban passing. It was probably just this incident happened, it scared different politicians, and they just probably rubber stamped it. Like I said, it happened in 5 days, so I doubt the community had any recourse to even beat that thing back.
It's a little alarming and a little bit scary. So the BSL has been in effect here for 10 years, and any time you hear about it in the news, it's obviously because of an incident, but there's no talk of it on the regular, which is why I'm really glad to be able to do not only advocacy, but like also just awareness of it, because so many people, regardless if they know there's a breed ban in Ontario, they don't know. Like they'll see Scout in a muzzle, and automatically like your go-to response is like, obviously this is an evil dog, like
right,
why else would you be wearing a muzzle? People are unaware of what a breed ban entails here, and some people just don't even realize there's a breed ban in effect in Ontario. Some people are just like, weird, I just thought I was seeing less of them. So people don't know that there's a ban, that dogs are getting killed, that dogs can be killed, and all this stuff is as a result of that. Like, it's weird.
Prior to you adopting Scout, like what was your thoughts about pit bulls, if you had any thoughts at all? And I mean, how did you come across him? What was that process like at the very beginning?
When the breed ban went into effect, I had a pit bull mix with an ex-partner at the time, and so that is what made me really aware of what was going on. I think I adopted Scout. I just wanted to help out a dog. Like, I mean, I'm a sucker for any puppy dog guys, but I wanted to adopt a pit bull because I wanted to be a good voice for them,
Where is Scout right now?
Currently right behind me.
Oh, there he is. What up, Scout?
This is Dion.
I didn't see Scout. Where did he go?
Yeah, come here.
Oh, okay. Oh boy. Reminds me of my boo.
Is BSO being actively enforced there? I mean, how, like, when you go outside with or without Scout and walk down the street, are you seeing other pit bulls? Because I know Scout was grandfathered in, so.
It's hard. Like, there was recently in April an incident in Ottawa, which is the nation's capital here. There was a child. It was completely situational. It was a young child. The mom was doing a nice favor, took an aggressive dog from a friend and left her child alone with it. Like, a lot of bylaw officers or police or whatnot in Ottawa were saying, like, we haven't really been enforcing this. And it is like that in a lot of communities. It's up to whatever bylaw officer or whoever wants to enforce it. I know a lot of legal grandfathered pit bulls. I do know younger pit bulls that have moved into Ontario, which I don't recommend because it's illegal, first of all.
I mean, what would happen per se if they ran into an officer that wanted to enforce it? I mean, would they basically have any recourse to get their dog out of the city, or would the dog just immediately be taken?
It all depends on who's enforcing it, honestly, is what it seems. Like, there recently was a guy who has a younger bulldog mix who looks very pit bullish. He got his dog got out of the backyard and was taken by the city. It took him about a month to get his dog back, but there was a lot of talk of him not getting his dog back. You know, his daughter was mortified, like it was her best friend. Thankfully, he did get his dog back, and he's still living in Ontario, and things are fine now. But he received a lot of quite a bit of press, or a lot of people trying to interview him, but for negative reasons, unfortunately. Thankfully, I've tried to keep everything with Scout like very nice and light, like say that he's of legal age. And thankfully, a lot of the press that I've done as a result has been very positive and very pro pit bulls, which I really appreciate so far.
What happens to the dogs that end up in shelters? I mean, under this legislation, I'm assuming they're just euthanized or killed.
Like, there are really good rescues. Like, Bullies in Need is a mainly pit bull specific rescue, and they're able to, you know, get dogs out of province, like adopt them out of province, or at least foster them out of province, or even foster them sometimes in province until they find a home outside of province.
If a dog comes into Ontario and ends up in a shelter in Ontario, rescues can actually get them out then.
Yeah.
You named Bullies in Need as a good rescue out there. I'm looking at their page right now.
Yeah.
Where are they located? Ontario, okay.
I love Bullies in Need. That's one of the rescues that me and Scout work with to give back, whether it be funding or support or whatnot. And the All Breed Canine Rescue in St. Thomas, outside of a little town called London, that's where Scout actually came from.
The book that Mr. Scout is featured in, and I gotta say, this book is so cool. Like, when I saw it at Barnes and Nobles, I immediately bought it. I was immediately like thrilled to see it like right there prominently on the shelf. Scout's making like a huge impact just because this book's right out here. I mean, most people, obviously I see this and know Scout's a pit bull or whatever, yeah, but most people will probably pick this up and not even know. They're just gonna see a dog and maybe even read through it all and find out, hey, at the end, Scout's a pit bull, and it's obviously going to change perceptions of a lot of people. I mean, this book is like super cute. It has amazing pictures in it.
Illegal in their own province would one day have a book that you could find anywhere. It's super rad. I'm really glad that I was able to do that.
Hold that book up again. You got to say something so we can see.
Oh yeah, I got to say something.
How many pages is that book?
Like over 100 pages. There's different pictures of him balancing different things, and each picture has like a little saying or a little quote.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of worldly insight from Scout.
Yeah,
himself.
Exactly, and it's very pertinent insight. I must say, Scout knows his stuff. This is my favorite picture. Scout as Yoda is one of the coolest things. Trying to find the spread of him with his muzzle. And it says, others will judge you needlessly, take it as a challenge, and prove them wrong.
Nice.
So, I mean, the bottom line is, this is just visually awesome. It shows Scout, it shows his true character, and every picture is gonna make you smile. And if you have a certain perception about pit bulls, this thing is gonna smash that perception. Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Scout, for putting this together, because this is awesome.
Who's the photographer?
A friend of mine named Maddie Chambers. She did the bulk of the photography. Two other friends, Max Lander and Chris Weber, helped me out as well. But just a couple of friends helping me out with the book.
What's been the response from people? I noticed like on your page now, people are posting like pictures with the book on their head and everything.
The response from people is really cool because a lot of them are pit bulls, and then it's a lot of people who are taking pictures like the book and their cat, like, or even just like a little Shih Tzu. It's really rad to see the support isn't just from people with bullies. There are people who have other breeds who are really supportive of this whole
Oh yeah,
pit
of
bull
course.
thing, and it's the response was really like it was out in stores just a couple of weeks ago on September 9th. And I didn't really think anything of it because I spent all year kind of finalizing this book. And then when it actually came out, the amount of response I had from people I knew and didn't know was so overwhelming. It was really nice to see that so many people cared about this little pit bull in Ontario.
Politicians in Ontario, or are they aware that this book is out there and exists? Like, are they aware of Scout?
There's an MP here who does a lot of, she is a bull terrier herself, so she's been fighting the good fight for pit bulls for a long time now. She's been one of the first, I guess, go-to politicians that have been supporting this along the way.
Say her name again.
Sherry DeNovo. Her view on it, like, she is a bull terrier, which commonly get mistaken as funny-looking pit bulls. So her point of view the whole time is like, if now pit bulls, like, her dog is next to be banned realistically, which I think is her main motive for fighting the ban, you know?
Her dog could potentially fall under it now. I mean, these laws are written so vaguely to where subjectively someone can say it is, and then the next person says it isn't. I would be concerned about that.
I should send you the link to the actual description of the Ontario ban. It's so incredibly vague.
Of course.
I mean, with any pit bull ban, I mean, which is probably like the biggest problem of banning these pit bull looking dogs, because the law itself says, you know, a natural coated breed that has a tail, you could shave down a Shih Tzu and it would fall under these guidelines of what could potentially be a pit bull, right? Like, it's insane that something so vague can even be enforced to such a degree where a dog is actually put down as a result. I do believe that the ban will soon enough be gone. I feel like enough places are getting rid of their ban. Like, it seems like a couple places in the States recently have gotten rid of theirs.
Oh yeah. The problem with, I guess Ontario would be included in this. Denver is another big one, and of course Miami. The problem with these cities with these very noticeable and well-known bans is, like, the reason why they're never repealed is you have to acknowledge that it didn't work, and these politicians have a big problem in doing that. So it's almost like they double down to protect their decision to initially bring the ban in. It's like, well, to get rid of it, they have to admit, well, it was a big failure, and their pride gets in the way of, like, kicking the ban to the curb, and that's like the most unfortunate thing.
It's like ego almost keeping these bans
Exactly.
in place.
Exactly. So is there any movement or any organizations out there that are actively trying to repeal in Ontario that you know of?
There's honestly like a small rally every couple months or so here. I feel like they don't get as much press as they deserve. They don't get enough positive press. It kind of ties into what I was saying about the pit bull ban is only mentioned if there's an awful incident. Like, there's
Right.
no awareness brought or education brought about it, and it's not talked about on the regular until something horrible happens. So, you know, it's them shown in a horrible light,
Right.
rather than like, cool pit bull balances things on his head, takes a nap. You know, no one is reporting that about Scout right now.
You happen to know Jamie and Mark Burley at all?
Know of them, yeah. I don't know them personally, but I've kind of reached out.
You're aware of that, Tino, how they're basically living apart for half the year when Mark plays baseball because their pit bull can't live in Ontario, where he plays for Toronto Blue Jays. So
yeah, that's pretty ridiculous. There's people out there that have these kind of dogs, and all you got to do is like what you did and what I did. I mean, Peace, Love, and Pit Bulls is like over 300,000 likes from a kissing booth picture and a video. And it's like you just keep doing that. Anybody who's watching this, you know, if you can't make it out, you know, to anything that's happening up in the Great White North, just post pictures of your dogs. Just show stuff, because the media is not doing it. Just what you said. So the best thing we can do is what you did, and what Josh does, and what I do is we just post pictures. We post the good stuff, and let everybody see another side that they don't get to see in mainstream media.
I think a lot of people don't realize. I think a lot of people didn't realize, but are starting to realize something so simple as sharing a picture or retweeting something is actually really effective for, that one extra person that gets to see a pit bull doing something cool. Like when I first started doing this almost 3 years ago, a lot of people wrote into my blog asking, like, what kind of dog is this? Because it's obviously not a pit bull, because you only hear awful things about them. So a lot of people were actually really surprised that was my response to what kind of dog this was.
I think the most effective thing against the prejudice that's out there against pit bulls is people meeting them in real life, because the very few people that are super hardcore against them, it's very few people really, and then the rest of it is just all what people hear. So it's like when people are introduced to one and see it in real life, the dog is like the best way to counter that hatred or that prejudice against them. The dog, seeing pictures of the dog. So what you're doing is the strongest thing that anybody can do, in my opinion.
When I think of BSL, I always quote Josh, and it's just like, what does that have to do with my dog? And that's it. I have, over my course of owning pit bulls since I was 18, I've had 19 pit bulls living in my house. And I always want to ask people, hey, just, if I told you I had 19 pit bulls, how many of those do you think bit, or how many of those had incidents? And I'd be curious to see what people would say, especially the haters. And I could say 0, none. What happened over there with that individual, with that particular dog, have to do with my dog? And why should my dog suffer? And why should my dog be targeted because of something that happened over there? It's just ridiculous. I mean, when you really think about that and get down to it, it's such a silly notion. It's like any generalization. You can't say all of this is bad, all of that is bad. I mean, we've already learned that. It's a ridiculous idea. It's just so ridiculous.
Like a girl that I went to high school with that I barely talked to in like 15 years. I noticed her sharing a lot of Scouts pictures, which is really awesome of her to support this. And I recently spoke to her, and I had no idea that after, like, when we left high school, she got really badly bit by a pit bull that a friend of her boyfriend had just adopted. And even she, like, recognizes that it was totally situational. It was how she was acting with this dog, like it was this dog's newly being rescued. And she doesn't hold anything against the breed, She recognizes that was this one time with this one dog, and it sucks, like, and she's okay now. But even her, as someone who was once attacked by a pit bull, doesn't hate all pit bulls as a result. Every dog is totally different.
I think that most people would take that view, because that's the rational view to take. I think most people are good. If they got a chance to meet a dog, meet a pit bull, meet Scout, meet my dogs, meet your dogs, they probably wouldn't have a bad thing to say. That goes for most people. It's just the fact that they don't get that opportunity, and they don't take that opportunity.
Now this is happening. So.
Oh, awesome.
My cousin used to have, I think, like 3 Great Danes. When I was down there staying the night at his house, like, I would sleep on the couch, and like the Great Danes like woke me up in the middle of the night, because they literally, like, moving around, they sound like people. I thought like the house was being like broken into, and it was just the Great Danes like moving around. But
oh, who's that cutie?
Shorty saying hi to everybody. She's saying hi.
Oh, really cute.
What's next for Mr. Scout? I mean, where do you go from here?
I have no idea. He's currently napping, so we can't ask him his whole take on this. Um, I hope to just continue on with this, like just more awareness, more education.
You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if like Ellen had you on if you did like the whole like.
Wasn't Scout on Ellen already?
Rachel Ray in
Oh, Rachel Ray, yeah.
Oh, that's
January.
awesome.
Doing the show was actually really incredible. Like, so me and Scout came in the entranceway and we were in a hallway. Um, Turns out her whole staff is like pit bull people. It's amazing. Like everyone was like crouching down like in the hallway on their knees, like getting kisses from Scout. She came in, she was like rolling around on the ground with him. It was really refreshing. It was really sweet to see, you know, the dogs in the building and then everyone turns to mush. Like everyone is in love.
So did you have to take him on a plane to get there, or how far was that from you to do Rachel Ray?
It was just in New York, so we just drove
Oh, you
down.
drove. Okay.
It was like Scout loves car rides. Like he gets excited for the first hour and then he sleeps the whole way. I'm a little weird about doing cargo flying like in the winter, so
Right.
it was really
Right.
easy to drive down. Bringing him to New York, which was like I don't think there's possibly any place that's more opposite Ontario and like the fear that everyone has of pit bulls here. Went to New York, he got stopped on he wore a hoodie because it was winter and he's cold. He got stopped on like every street corner. Like he got scratches in every elevator that we went in. Everyone was just so delighted at how precious he was in his small little hoodie, which is the total opposite. Like everyone in Ontario will like cross the street. It was really nice.
Well, you didn't have to wear a muzzle in New York, right?
Oh
Right.
yeah.
So you've got just as many positive people out where you are as we do here, probably even more so. The people that I talk to that go up to Canada, love Canada, is how much nicer people are up there, especially from New Yorkers. So the funny
Yeah.
thing that you're saying about, Ontario not being fearful and New York not being fearful. Well, there's the muzzle that's in that little, scenario.
Totally.
So yeah, I just wanted to touch on that.
It's probably almost mainly the muzzle because even like the hotel that I was staying at in New York was super dog friendly, and a woman in the elevator actually asked what kind of dog he was and asked if she could pet him, and mentioned that she usually is scared of dogs, but he was just so well behaved sitting there not looking at her in the elevator that she felt comfortable approaching him first, you know.
The more you ignore women, the more they come around. That's what he.
Hey, when you came back from New York and you drove, so when you came back into Ontario, was there like a papers please process for Scout? Like, what's that like?
I've heard nightmares about about bringing pit bulls across the border. So I was petrified. Going into driving to New York was like unbelievably easy. I can't even remember if I actually showed all of his paperwork or not. The guy at the border was mostly just rolling his eyes the fact that I said that my dog was going on Rachel Ray. So he was like, yeah, okay, whatever. But coming back in, it was really good. I had all of my stuff, like all my paperwork for him, that he was adopted, that he had all his vaccines, that everything was like A-okay. And there's this kind of awareness organization called Save Ontario Dogs on Facebook. They were super helpful, but they were texting me like, if you have any problems at the border, call us ASAP. We'll like figure this out. So I had like a game plan in case something went wrong at the border, just because that's what you have to do. Even if you have a legal pit bull, you can get held up at the border. It's all who you're dealing with.
Have you ever been stopped by like a police officer while you're out walking him or anybody else? And like if that happens, do you then have to like produce papers on the street or like you have to carry around your papers at all times?
Heard of a couple like friends of friends that do actually carry their papers because they have like a younger looking dog, or even if they legitimately have a non pit bull dog that is pit bull looking. so they're not wearing a muzzle, and they have the paperwork just to prove it. So they are, because there is a fine if your dog does not have a muzzle, and then obviously if they're young enough, they could be at risk to just be taken.
Is it just the muzzle that you need to like abide by, or is there also like an insurance requirement? Is there a list?
There's no insurance. Having a pit bull in Ontario sometimes is difficult to find a place to live because some people
Right.
don't want to put that on. I heard that it's the same in the States for
Oh yeah.
places that don't have BSL. Like it's a thing.
I would say that's probably, at least in America, that's probably the biggest reason why there's so many pit bulls in the shelters is because of the lack of housing. Um, even if like you said, even if it's a city without a breed restriction, you're still going to run into breed restrictions when you rent. And out here in LA, most people rent, so they have to, deal with the landlord breed restriction or the insurance breed restriction. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I would say that's the number one reason why, pit bulls are in shelters now. The people that don't like them will say, well, it's because they're bad dogs. That's just hogwash. It's literally because there's no housing
Yeah.
for a lot of these dogs. And there's a lot of people just, well, okay, we can't rent here. We can't have our dog. They take their dog to the shelter. So.
I've gotten a lot of outreach from places like the UK or even Australia that also have
Yep.
pit bull bans. So it's really rad that, like, again, something so simple can be so powerful and so effective, like regardless of where you are, because realistically, he's just a dog doing cute things. He just happens to be a pit bull.
At the end of the day, that's what it is. Pit bulls are just dogs. Thanks for coming on here and talking to me and us. And anybody who's watching, of course, they probably already know where to check Scout out, but it's stuff on scoutshead.tumblr.com. Bye, Scout. I love you.